Hello. It's a new day. There is the new day. There is the dog. You see her? That's the new garden that we've got. So rather than having to go somewhere to kick a ball about or something, we can go up the garden and have a kick about, which is nice. And I'm getting more fresh air living here. We've been here a month today. The move was stressful, as you know, as I've mentioned. It really took its toll on me mentally. A couple of weeks at least to settle in, to get sleep. Now I'm sort of finding my flow and feeling more comfortable. But today, I wanted to talk about jelly legs. Jelly legs. Wobbly legs. The adrenaline cycle that makes our legs feel like we've just completely lost control. The reason that I wanted to talk about it today was because the other day, I didn't mention this on the last video yesterday, but the other day I walked to the shop with my wife, and it's only the second time that I've done it since we've been living here. It's about probably half a mile, which isn't that far really. Probably a 10-minute round trip. Does that make sense? It's about that kind of distance. 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back. And on the way there, I didn't feel too bad. I was walking the dog. I was with my wife, and it's through streets. So whereas we used to live out in the country, almost, so we could go out the back door and it would just be fields, whereas here we're in a terraced row of houses, so the walking is not so secluded. There's always a chance that there's people out there, there's people driving past, there's other houses, and that instantly gives me a bit of what is it? I don't know. I'm conscious of other people maybe being there, looking out the window, or having to walk by other people, and that gives me extra tension. It makes me feel on edge instantly before I've even gone, which is a bit odd, but that's just the way that it is. So on the way to the shop, I didn't feel too bad. We got there and I waited outside because I had the dog, and then on the way back, my legs, and I figured out, I actually managed to talk myself out of the situation, but my legs just began to feel like I had no control over them. It was like they were, I don't know, they didn't feel strong enough to get me home, and it was like putting one foot in front of another was becoming a challenge. It was like my knees were locking up, my feet felt weird, my legs just felt tense but weak at the same time, if that's even possible. But what I noticed was that it only really started to feel like that when I started thinking about it. So the more attention I was giving to my legs, the worse that it was getting. The more I was trying to put one foot in front of the other, the more that it was difficult, and the more I was really struggling to just not concentrate on what I was doing. So I was obviously walking as I normally would, and probably looked normal to the outside world, but it just didn't feel normal. So after, I don't know, a couple of minutes of walking that way, I just switched my mind to something else. It was like, stop thinking. And I know it's really difficult to stop thinking about something because it just makes you think about it even more. But I just concentrated on something else, like the dog or the houses, looking around and making my awareness, distracting my awareness to something else, and it really, really worked for me. So I stopped thinking about what I was doing with my legs and took my mind elsewhere. It took the focus off, and therefore my legs just did what they do naturally and just walked properly. But something that I've noticed probably over the last 3-4 months is when I'm having panic, and one particular incident really springs to mind, and that was on holiday. I don't know when it was, about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And I was in a big Tesco's, and I was walking around pushing the trolley, the cart, for the American viewers. And I was going in and out of all the aisles and stuff, and it weren't too bad, but I was feeling edgy, but it weren't crazy bad, and I put it down to me holding onto the shopping trolley and pushing it around. So when we got to the checkout, I didn't want to stay in there anymore. So I gave the trolley to my wife. She did the checkout, and then I had to walk from there to the exit. And that walk was probably, I don't know, 50 yards. It was pathetic, really. The length of my garden, maybe. And it was one of the most difficult walks that I've ever had to do. It was like putting one foot in front of the other was weird. I sped up. I was trying to walk too fast. I felt like my legs were just going to give way from underneath me. They were complete jelly. It was horrible. It was one of the most intense feelings of jelly legs that I've experienced. But as soon as I got out the door, and then the car was even further away from the store, but as soon as I got out the door, my attention just changed. And that's what I'm thinking now, is that I stopped thinking about it, because once I'd got out the door, the fear had gone, because I was no longer in this store, which makes it's stupid when I sit here and think about it. But as soon as I'd gone through those automatic sliding doors out into the car park, it was a wide open space. My car was probably double the distance from that I'd just walked, but the walk from the door to the car was simple. There was no concern about my legs. I didn't walk fast. I didn't feel the need to rush back to the car. I think it was that moment that I'd handed the shopping trolley to my wife. I'd lost that stability that I'd had, which I didn't need anyway. You know, my legs are perfectly normal and perfectly capable to make a journey of that distance. It's crazy to think how much I struggled in that short journey. And my son actually said, once we got outside, that I looked like I was walking really weird, which made me even more self-conscious about it. But I made it out of there. And the point that I got to the door and felt fine just reaffirms to me that it was the situation that created the jelly legs. That's all there is to really say on the matter of jelly legs and wobbly legs. It is completely all in the mind, although it's the adrenaline boost, that adrenaline shot that I got, that I give myself pretty much when I handed the trolley over. It was instant. I'm going to struggle now. Adrenaline, blam, legs, jelly, door, calm. You like that? The way that I narrowed that down. That's the way that I see it. That's the only way that and even now when I go to my local shop, I go in with my wife, I stand at the till with her, and I'll do the conversation, but I can't hold the money at the moment, and I can't wait for the change. I have to be sort of free. This is the way that it is at the moment. I have to be free to be able to get out if I need to. Whereas if I'm the one at the till doing the transaction, then I know that I've got to wait, and it's that trapped sort of feeling, and that's where I'm stuck at the moment. So I am getting out a little more, and I've done it this morning as well. I dropped my wife off, she's gone shopping, and we went to the garage on the way there, and I got myself some breakfast from the garage, and she got herself a coffee, and I stood with her, and it weren't too bad. But the things that I notice when I'm standing waiting, I stand on my heels a lot, so I'll be standing there and I'll feel myself sort of rock back to my heels, and then I don't know, I can't stand still wherever it may be. And I get this even when I'm outside at home, like if I'm talking to the neighbour or something, I can't just stand there still, because there's something in my mind that says I'm swaying or I'm wobbling or my legs don't feel up to the job. It's odd. And I suppose if you can get involved in a conversation and that distraction, then you don't really think about the legs and the feelings and the swaying or whatever it is. I don't know. That's been a long old rabbit. I don't know whether anybody would find that useful in knowing. I guess the key takeaway from this video really is that knowing that the legs will get you there. They are strong enough to get you there. And as much as you might feel like you're going to fall over and collapse, I think there are ways to control it. Slow down would be my first point. You're not going to collapse and die on the way out of wherever you're trying to get from. The more you speed up, the more frantic it feels and the more powerful the feelings become. It's that frantic trying to escape, feeling that you have to get out of there. If you can just slow down and take one step at a time, maybe look around, You know, take in the surroundings, perhaps not focus on the exit, focus on just wherever you're trying to get out from, because there are times, and obviously the real key would be to not have to escape, to just stand there and let the feelings flow. But on the occasion that you do feel the urge to get out of there, just try and take your time, one foot in front of the other. Steady, steady,